So maybe this is foolishness is bound up in the heart of the child, but the rod of correction will drive it far from him. Take two. Um, I don't like um, the little, and you can do what you want to do. Obviously, you may be doing nothing, but to use your hand on a child, the scripture says the rod of correction. Rod again in the Hebrew suggests a small switch like a twig, not something that's going to break bones, but also not necessarily your hand. We understand that the Lord has a right hand for nurturing and a left hand maybe for discipline, training, judgment, if you will. So I don't think it's wicked to use your hand. I'm just saying that as a matter of practice and course, to say that the instrument that delivers pain should not be the hand that loves, caresses, and nurtures. Just a point, a thought. But with that comes a certain amount of premeditation. So we don't go off the wall and beat a child. We would say, okay, you've stepped over the line, you have rebelled, you have directly disobeyed, instruction that you've priorly been, taught and you fully understand. So now it's time for appropriate punishment. So appropriate punishment then is not a beating. Okay, so for all you naysayers, this has nothing to do with abusing anybody. This has to do with drawing attention to the fact that they've done wrong and reinforcing that on their backside, not their face, with just enough pain that it is immediately memorable.
Yeah. And that just enough pain, you get to be the judge of that. I mean, it's individual to families, to kids. My own daughter was very sensitive to our training of her, and so a pretty simple swat would get her attention, and she would be compliant and learn her lesson. Me, I think I was probably a little bit harder headed. I think my mom had to sting me pretty good before I came out of la la land and says, "Oh, I got to do something different here. I'm not doing correctly here," and so use your judgment.
Yeah, I think pain. See, if we even use the word pain, everybody that's of the world view that you can never even inflict pain, or otherwise it's violence, and you're extending the pattern of violence and abuse. Whoa, 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 whoa. A lot of liberal people think that way, and maybe some of them were abused, and I'm very sorry for that. Having said that, just because someone was out of balance and incorrect in what they did doesn't mean we throw the baby out with the proverbial bathwater, nor do we ignore the scriptures just because a person experienced bad things. So just to set the record straight, abuse is abuse. Spanking and training in a loving and disciplined manner is the saving of their soul, really.
Yeah. The Bible does say if you beat him, you will save his soul from hell. You won't hurt him. You'll help him. And so you need to have that in mind. This is all done from a heart of love. I mean, if you're just mad and the kids ticked you off and you want to wail on them, back up, back off, take a breath. Because, as Johnny said, this is something you do intentionally. It's part of a plan. It's part of something you thought out. It's not just an emotional reaction. And so, you're going to be consistent with this. You're going to do it appropriately, when it's needed, how it's needed, and why it's needed. And it will be a lot more effective that way.
Yeah, I think if we go back, even now, really, as much liberalism and anti-scriptural, type of attitudes as are going around, even now I still believe that most people who love their children will do everything in their power to train them, to guide them, to instruct them, to do the right thing and to be good citizens. And about 97% of the time, as far as with kids, that is going to entail some form of corporal punishment somewhere along the way, preferably when they're little, where it takes very little of anything to get the point across. And we have stressed this before, but we'll have to stress it again. If you just pat some kid on the butt with a 3-inch thick diaper, you haven't spanked him. He never felt nothing anyway. You may have offered verbal chiding and then did the little, nothing on the knee type of thing or nothing on the butt. But that isn't, righteously a spanking. So you're going to have to, in my opinion, go study your scriptures, do what you want to do. But in my opinion, the whole point of the rod of correction, or that switch applied to the behind, was to inflict pain. If doing wrong things or stupid things or foolish things doesn't reap a harvest of pain, then wherein lies the motive to not do stupid things?
Amen.